Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. Hello and welcome everybody to Blue Collar Mystics. All you Blue Collar Mystics out there, thanks for tuning in. Really excited and very, very curious to get to this episode. Get to speak with author and researcher Dawn Lester. She has a book called What Really Makes You Ill: Why Everything You Thought You Knew About Disease is Wrong. And we are going to talk as much as we can about these topics. I think some of the things that Dawn has discovered are very faux pas as far as the algorithm is concerned, and a lot of status quo medical type of establishments would say. And that's no surprise to us here on this channel. We are not at all hoodwinked into thinking that everything that we're being told on big media channels is anywhere near accurate, but we're going to talk as much as we can. And then, I'm going to invite you guys to check out more of Dawn's work. I've heard a couple of her podcasts with Chance Garton of Interverse, which was amazing. And Brandon Thomas, a good friend of the show. Much, much love to that guy for introducing us. Dawn, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I love your introduction. That's just really cool. So
Thank
good.
you.
And yeah, getting the message out to people without it, in these long words and complicated ideas and ideologies and the way it's expressed. So it's great because it's time for all of us to know or to start learning what's going on, who we are. Such an important question.
It really is. I think everything's kind of stemming from that. When I started my whole process, I was looking outside a lot, and it's ultimately been looking inside where I've found many of the answers. Obviously, there's people such as yourself who are exploring scientifically different ideas and things that, we kind of take for granted, I think, as part of the world, and exploring those types of things is very helpful as well. But from what I understand, from what I've heard from your podcast, your whole exploration really started with what consciousness is and beginning to understand the world from a more spiritual perspective. Is that correct?
Yes. The beginning of the journey, if you like, that before the book, the What Really Makes You Ill book, was looking into the nature of consciousness, who we are. And that certainly helped going through the process of learning what's wrong with the medical system, and believing that there was an opportunity to actually put some information out to people, believing the system, believing in being able to expose the system. And it's no coincidence that the book actually was published Christmas Eve 2019, just before the nonsense that started in 2020. So, there are other forces at play, and knowing and certainly doing a lot of the inner work as well during the process of the research, because it was not just about health. It covered as many rabbit holes as I could dive down, because they're all interconnected. You almost you can't look at one without finding so many others. And it's also seeing the system and the agendas, and again, just because I'm mentioning agendas, it's just just because people have plans, it doesn't mean they're going to happen. It's just that other people have plans. So it's good for us to know, and then we can recognize the patterns. We can recognize the so-called information we're being given through the media, and then recognize what's going on and what it actually means, what's behind it. And then you're in a better position to make informed choices, which is really what this is about. And the informed choice, of course, starts from ourselves, knowing and recognizing and being in tune and getting back to that place where you hear something and think there's something wrong with that, and then trusting your intuition rather than trusting these external authorities, because of course they're not. It's just we're indoctrinated and conditioned to believe that they are authorities. And that's, of course, that's the starting point. So when you start trusting your own inner authority, that's a very interesting journey and takes people on a very interesting journey.
Yeah,
It
no
is.
doubt. No, I
It's
love all that. Yeah, that's excellent, excellent. And I think it makes us all so much stronger. I mean, not to divert, but could you actually touch on that a little bit? What's your process been like working with your own intuition, especially against such a strong, powerful establishment?
Yes. There were times when it was rocked. Although my personal health journey began in the 90s when I received a diagnosis of, and I'm going to have to use code because it's one of the words that may well be triggered by certain channels. So I have to refer to the C word. Crazy. I mean, when I was little, it was like the C word because it was, behind closed doors because people didn't talk about it because it was rare. It's now just, so that process, there was something about that again, my intuition, something other, whatever it was, I knew it was something to do with my mindset, how I would get through it, even though I took the standard treatment and went through everything that is just so different. I just see things so differently now. Just having gone through it, though, I just felt there was something for me, and it was about taking responsibility. And I started taking responsibility and moved away from the system. And then that's where my journey started, into looking into the nature of reality and understanding consciousness. And that gave me more, if you like, kind of confidence in trusting myself that I was moving in the right path. There was nothing to be afraid of. So the checks, I stopped doing any of that, because that's, again, the system gets you to, you've got to go in to have your checks because there might be something wrong with you. And again, that's a whole big area of, the problems, what's behind the book. The whole system is wrong with what they're telling us is how the body works. And once you know that that's not how the body works, it does require you to take responsibility. And so it's, for your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own beliefs, and taking the appropriate action as well. So it was a journey of, that the health started, and then I moved into the nature of reality, and then that moved back into the health side of things. So really taking it. So it's, they're just so interconnected as well, because it is about trusting yourself, trusting your own intuition, and at the same time going through that journey of really learning who you are, doing the, what they call shadow work, or the inner work, and the dark nights of the soul, where you just wonder what this is all about, and just come through all of that and keep learning and growing and evolving, and we're all a work in progress. It's, it's an ongoing journey. It doesn't stop just because you get to a certain point. It's just, there are new ways of learning.
Ever stops, does it?
Well, I think if it stops, you go, well, what else is there to learn? I mean, there's where would be the excitement? I mean, sometimes the excitement's high or low, but it's, it's just that that journey of learning and growing and knowing you can just, well, approaching the challenges, how you approach the challenges, and how you just work your way through them, understand what you're doing, who you are, learn a bit more about yourself, and then put it into action in this realm, whatever this is. So yeah.
Yeah. Still don't know that, which is hilarious, right? Like, how is it possible that no one knows what reality is? But I don't want to, again, I don't want to in the weeds here. This is something that we come back to a lot on this channel or on this show. And we're, oftentimes on the same page, about all this kind of stuff. It just kind of hit me too, when you were talking about shadow work just now and the word unseen. Cause like the shadow work it sounds like you're digging into the bad stuff and this negative energy and all this. And sometimes that is what it is. But the word shadow work could just mean the work that you do that nobody else gets to see. It's your hidden work, possibly.
Yes, I think that's a good way of putting it, because yes, I mean the shadow is always seen as, as you say, something dark. I suppose the shadows, dark. Yes, it can be dark, but because yes, it's not necessarily bad. It's stuff that's hidden, and it's stuff that's hidden from ourselves, or it's bringing things out of the darkness and into the light to learn who we are and what we can do. Whatever the conditioning is. So recognizing we've been conditioned about something, and bringing that conditioning out of the shadow and into the light and say, oh, that's conditioning. I don't have to accept that as true, because it isn't necessarily true. We can say, okay, well, that's, like we're learning that history is like, his story. So, okay, these are stories we're told. Are they true? Well, we don't know a lot of it, because we can only know our own experiences, and that's all we can know. And at the same time, there's still information that can make certain stories, certain narratives have more weight and more credibility. But for the most part, what comes out of the mainstream media that we're told is not not credible, not backed by evidence, and certainly because of what happened in 2020, that the whole medical system, exposing the whole medical system has been really good, because that really, that 2020 thing was, the sort of spearhead of pushing everything through. And of course, everything's starting to come through, but being able to say, well, that was based on a lie, based on something that's never been proven. And that helps people start to question everything else. And it can be overwhelming sometimes. You mean nothing's true? Well, some things are, but it can be a little bit, rocks the boat. So and then that's where some of the, the darkness, because you think, well, I believe this, and so I've got to start taking things apart and putting me back together and finding out who I am. And so that can be difficult and dark. So yeah,
certainly is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have. It's like the crack in the dam happens, and then it can be a lot from there. But fortunately, there's people like yourself out there who are putting information together and making it accessible and easier to consume and stuff, which is very, very helpful to people. There's a lot more people talking about it now than there ever was, as far as I can tell, at least for me. When I started looking into this stuff in 2012, it's hard to believe that's 12 years ago, and almost 13. But let's start to get into it. What were some of the things that kind of led you down this road, specifically on the physical health side? Because we established that you were looking into consciousness, and these things are very, very much linked. But as far as the physical health signals, signs, your own intuition telling you to go down this path, what were some of the things that you began to notice after your battle with the dreaded, word we can't say, that kind of led you down this path?
as I said, that journey was in the 90s. I knew I had to, in the mid 90s, I knew I had to make changes. I did make a pretty dramatic change in my personal life that then, sometimes, doors closed and others open. And that's what led me to meet David Parker, who ended up writing we originally were working on a course about the nature of reality. And that we turned that into a book that was published in 2010. And part of, if you like, looking at the nature of reality involves looking at the body. What makes us ill? How do we get ill? So again, coming across the work of Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, and that our thoughts affect our health. In which case, well, how do we get ill from these so-called infectious diseases that are supposedly caused by these? The phrase I use is invisible enemies, because probably not going to use the word that begins with V that might be a trigger word. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Right.
we're doing good in the coded language department here,
Yes.
but
So
no,
as I said, so I call them invisible enemies. I mean, there is a difference between them and bacteria. Bacteria do exist. With the invisible enemies, it was, we get these things and it makes us ill. So, if it's only to do with our beliefs, let's have a look. Where's the evidence? It was just really starting to look, and then we found that there were many people who were questioning, or had been questioning, or even once we started looking even further back into the sort of origins of the germ theory, we discovered that a lot of people were critical of that work at the very beginning, and were not just questioning, were actually saying, well, there's no evidence that they are the cause. And they were saying, there are plenty of other causes. So that was a starting point to say, well, you mean we don't get colds because we catch them? Well, no, we don't get these things called diseases. That's where the subtitle comes from. Everything you thought you knew about disease is wrong, is because we get the idea that we get a disease, or it's, we catch something, or it's passed, or it's transmitted, or something or other happens to us, so we become victims. And discovering that that's not how the body actually functions. The body is not stupid. It does not make mistakes. It does not attack itself. It's not just some inert blob of something that just is a victim of what happens around us, or to these invisible enemies. Is actually an amazing the body is an amazing self-regulating organism. It's incredibly intelligent, looks after itself, does everything it can to not just stay alive. So it's not just surviving, it's does everything it can to thrive. It's just, unfortunately, we get in our own way when we try and do things that suppress symptoms, because we're told that symptoms are bad. And again, like you're saying with the shadow work or whatever, you get the idea that if you get these symptoms, there's something wrong with you, and your body's, just been attacked. And that's not how things are. That's not how the body functions. And it is, it's just, it's an inversion. It's like so many of these things. It's an inversion of the truth. What we're told is an inversion of the truth. The body looks after itself. The reason the body produces symptoms is because it's clearing itself. It's looking after itself. These are cleansing, for the most part. The symptoms that are associated with these so-called infectious diseases are cleansing mechanisms. They're processes where the body's clearing something. And it's, not just sort of toxins. There are, we came up with 4 categories of, what we call 4 factors that are related to what we eat, the toxins, EMFs, and what we called stress. But that's really the bigger category of our belief systems, because our belief systems do affect our health, our emotions and everything. And that's again where the conditioning comes in, because so many people grew up with the idea of, you know, don't sneeze on me. I don't want your germs. There's something going around the office. We all catch whatever it is. Somebody comes in that has got, sneezing or something. Stay away from it. It's that's just so ingrained in us that it can take people a while to get out of that, realizing that's not how it works. So that's really the point, that it's not how the body works. The body's doing what it is supposed to do, and it's looking after us. It's just that the medical system wants us to believe it's a mistake, so that we then defer to them for our health, because we apparently can't look after ourselves, which is again how they want us to be, victims of their system, so they can make us persistent customers, really. As it's not even patients, it's just customers.
Totally. Yep. I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah. The most dangerous superstition is the belief in authority, as Larkin Rose has so famously said. He's he's correct about that. And then from there, right, it's about what was it? It's Sir Thomas More's utopia. It was kind of like make the people criminals and then punish them for their crimes. They weren't criminals, you know what I'm saying? But they made them criminals, right? Like, make people a certain thing, and then if you create the problem and the solution, then you can profit double. So I think that's kind of what we're dealing with a lot of the a lot of the authority systems. They're put in place specifically for that reason. So what you're talking about, by the way, is that synonymous or similar to terrain theory? I'd heard people talking about that a couple of years ago. I hadn't heard the term.
Right. Yes, there is what's called terrain theory, only it's not really a theory. There are a few variations on that idea. It is that the body responds to its environment, so the terrain, and that also includes the inner terrain. So if there's an intake of toxins, then the internal terrain becomes less able to function. So the body's having to work harder to expel the toxins, which is where we get symptoms. And at the same time, it will, the toxins will impair the body's ability to actually function properly. So again, toxins quite a wide range. It covers quite a wide range. So again, it's the kind of chemicals. It's also stuff that does appear in the atmosphere, unfortunately, that and it's also EMFs and what's inside, outside, in our environment. And it's also our mind as well. So our emotions, our fears, and understanding the placebo effect and its opposite, the nocebo effect, knowing how powerful our thoughts and our beliefs can be. And again, that's going back to the idea that there's an office cold, or whatever it is, something going around. People can manifest symptoms literally because they believe that they can actually get it. And I've heard people who said when they used to believe in the germ theory, they would actually succumb to whatever it was that was apparently going around. And when they realized that wasn't true, they stopped experiencing those symptoms. And that's not to say symptoms are bad either. I mean, that's okay. It's just that that's one of the factors of, there's a whole range of factors and there are always different combinations. And that's why, because we're all different, that's why we respond differently. Not everyone seems to express the same symptoms at the same time, although within a group, within a household, for example, people are expressing symptoms at a similar time. And you can say, and this goes back to what you're saying about the terrain idea, is that they are within the same terrain. So they're eating the same food. They're exposed to whatever it is within the same environment and possibly the same belief systems as well. So there's So again, EMFs, just so all of those factors will play a part in people in a similar environment. So like in the household, which is why people say, well, we all got it, when something happened. Sometimes not everybody gets it. So, there are these occasions where it's not always everybody. So again, and sometimes these things are anecdotal when people say, oh yeah, but we all got it. Well, did you? Oh, actually, no, not everybody. Somebody didn't. So you have to say, well, then we need to look at things a little bit differently. Now, the one thing, I probably should have said this earlier, nothing I'm saying should be taken as, medical advice.
Sure.
I'm sharing information which is the result of, years of research. So I'm sharing information here.
No, that's great.
And yeah, we're different at the same time within certain environments. People are similar. So that's where the terrain idea can be shown to be far more plausible, credible, and in fact it actually does represent how the body works, but it can be seen to offer a far better explanation than the so-called germ explanation, because that's, well, to say, it's unproven as well. So it's never been proven to be true. So it's a hypothesis, really, not even a theory. Wow. So
unbelievable how we could just take things, so many things. There's a lot of things that have never been proven that we just take as just for granted. We're like, oh, well, that's, everybody knows that. It's pretty funny. That's wild. Well, let's talk a little bit about health then. I am a solutions guy. I know we're going to encounter problems, and that's part of the process. And we were talking about it never ends earlier. That's okay. But from there, what I really like focusing on, because I really do believe in the esoteric idea that what we focus on expands, where attention goes, energy flows. Any system's going to have inherent flaws in it anyway. These are groups, and groups are fallible, very fallible. If one person's fallible, then a group is exponentially fallible. And especially our audience here, we talk a lot about this group thought and what we call pendulums or egregores, energetic informational entities, structures, who knows what they actually are, but these clusters of ideas and emotions and momentum that we kind of experience. We're pretty well familiar and versed in these ideas here on this channel. So we do know to kind of watch out for a lot of this kind of stuff. A lot of it's even intentionally put there just to trip us up and make us upset or get our energy, And so, so from there, I love to talk about, what health really kind of looks like. I'm new to kind of getting myself in a more healthy space. I'd kind of taken health for granted maybe through the past decade or so. The pandemic certainly didn't help, but I'm a lot more active now. I'm exercising a lot more. I'm definitely watching what I'm putting in my body. And so from a health place, eating differently, more consciously than I ever have, and things like that. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about that for the audience. In this whole world, we've got all these supplements now, and everybody's on testosterone, or what is this stuff called that makes you skinny? Ozempic, and all this kind of stuff, and and you go to the doctor. I go to the doctor. My doctor is like a 12-year-old man from Africa. You know what I mean? And he's a nice guy, but I mean, he's very young. We have different backgrounds, different genetics, all that kind of stuff. It's like, I want my doctor to be like a 90-year-old, dude, who's seen it, who's been through all the things that I am going to go through if I get to choose my doctor, which I don't. But, it's just kind of funny when I go in there and I'm like, this guy's younger than me, I don't know how long he's lived in our country and stuff, which is fine. I'm not trying to be like judgmental about someone's appearance or any of that. But at the same time, it's like, when I'm taking advice from someone, I want to not just take advice from someone who got it secondhand. I would like to speak with someone who has had experience, who understands, who's seen things multiple times. So, we're already at a disadvantage from my perspective when we go in and ask a lot of certain people who are in authority positions for advice and things like that. So, he just asked me, what do I want? And I feel like I could just tell him whatever I wanted and he would just write a script for it. And then I don't know, maybe he gets paid on the back end. Look, I'm no stranger to business. I'm all about making a little money. I like a side hustle myself. So I try not to be too judgmental. But I would love to talk about that. What have you discovered about health? Like, I'm eating, like, I guess you could call it carnivore now. I've tried veganism before. I was a vegetarian for a while. I tried all these things out. And one thing I know for sure from reading a lot of like Robert Anton Wilson and stuff is that our mind, it becomes this reality tunnel. And I became a vegetarian and I would feel so bad when I would see a steak. I would just feel bad inside, oh, the poor animal. Now I'm eating like steak and eggs like twice a day, and I don't feel bad about that. The way I viewed things, it shifts, and it does so for all of us. I'd love to know, just from a beginning place, like, what can we do for our health in order to start making progress little bits at a time? Obviously, we know Rome isn't built in a day, but where can we start? What's a good place that we can begin?
Oh, wow. So much, yeah, so much to unpack. I totally,
I didn't mean to say too much.
no, it's fine. No, not at all. I
That's a long
totally
question.
No. I totally understand. When you want advice, you want to go to somebody who you think has the experience, the background, the knowledge. They are trained in a very, very narrow way. And nothing they are trained in has anything to do with health. It's all about the treatment of so-called disease. And again, that's where disease is not what we think. You don't get these diseases. These are conditions within the body. The body's trying to, the body's doing its best to restore homeostasis. And I'm just careful how I say this. What are given out as medicine are not actually addressing the problems in the body, because they don't address the cause. All they do is they manage symptoms. So it isn't the medical system isn't about health. And I think more and more people are aware that it's a sick care system. It's not a healthcare system. It is designed to provide products.
Temporary solutions. Yeah, products.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just weaving my way around this.
No, you're doing great.
Products to either manage symptoms, or certain products that are claimed to prevent. And these products that normally get put into people's arms are also something that is based on a complete fallacy. It's never been proven that they prevent anything of any sort, and there's certainly plenty of evidence to show that they cause harm. So the whole medical system is built on the wrong model of how the body works. So right, okay, put that to one side. So how does the body work? Well, it functions on the input. So again, food. And I'm not going to go into the whole diet wars, because I know there's so much in all of that. And I have eaten meat. I sort of vegetarian. Again, it's realizing what suits us, and this is going back to trusting ourselves. And I know there are many people who say, that there's only one way of eating, and yet so many people have personal experiences where certain ways of eating actually works for them and other ways don't work. So my perspective is to eat real food rather than processed manufactured products. I mean, it's called food, but most of the time they're just chemical conglomerations of, once you start looking at the ingredients and you start investigating those, that's not food. So it's to eat food. And the other thing of eating food is not just energy and nourishment. It is, energy and nourishment at the same time. You should enjoy what you're eating. You should be, again, I'm not telling people what I'm not telling people what to do. For me, part of eating is joy, and if you are not enjoying what you're eating, then you might need to, or you might want to have a look at you know, why you're eating what you're eating. So, and again, when people are on diets and they're trying to either do the right thing or lose weight or something or other, and sometimes they give up and they think, well, they go and eat a burger and they say, well, whatever it is, say just okay, not a burger, let's just say something, a treat, like, I don't know, a donut or something. So they say, oh, I know it's bad for me, and then they eat it. But so again, this is the energy of, I know this is bad for me. You go, well, you're then putting that into your body. So the idea of praying over your food, or blessing your food, or having gratitude for your food. And it's not grateful because there are other people are suffering. I don't mean it from that. I just mean in the perspective of the approach to what you're about to eat. Can count. Because like you were saying, is where your energy goes. It's important to have a healthy attitude towards what you're eating. And again, when I say real food, I mean either stuff that grows, or plants, or whatever it is, that it's real food, and preferably not poisoned, or as little poisoned as possible. So that may involve organic or that kind of thing. And again, it's not to be obsessive about it, because then you're still setting up some kind of emotional charge against what you're eating. So that's one point. The toxins, and again, this is not to scare people, but the chemicals that are in the products that we use daily, or many people do use daily in what they use sort of to clean, personal care products, cleaning products, just so many products that are used on a daily basis. Once you start looking at the labels, you realize that there are a lot of chemicals, and most of them are totally unpronounceable. And even things like things that smell nice, perfumes, or even candles, or just all sorts of things have things that smell nice, and yet once you start looking into fragrances as well, you find out there's a lot of chemicals in there. So the body is responding to chemicals. So it may, there may be what's called an allergic reaction or something. So there's a sensitivity, and it's not because you then have an allergy, it's because your body has been exposed to something that it's sensitive to, and it's a reaction to something, to being exposed to something. So and there are plenty of chemicals everywhere. And again, it's not scaring people, it's just saying, well, there's the information. What can you do about it? Well, what you can do about it is start to look for natural products, natural ways of cleaning the house, cleaning yourself, whatever it is, those kinds of things. So it's about taking responsibilities. Oh, well, I don't have to be exposed to this stuff, so I can choose other products. EMFs, again, that's something else that we're all exposed to, and we're obviously exposed to them just by having this conversation with the different equipment, even just electrical equipment. And it's not about it's dangerous, bad. Yes, in a way, it's just, again, being more careful and more aware, so that you reduce your exposure. And one of the ways for that is go out bare feet on the bare ground, and grounding, go out outside, as I was like, go hug a tree, these kinds of things that were looked as a woo-woo and all hippy dippy stuff. Well, actually no, because you're grounding yourself. Be out in the sunshine, outside, take time out, relax, don't be on the wheel, on the sort of treadmill all the time. And with the stress thing, is a lot of it is the fear-based, because our bodies respond not just to actual scary events. For example, if you're being chased by a wild animal or something. That's something real, you know, so your stress levels. It's also the perception of something, so which is what has been going on, because we know these people who are behind the narratives know quite a lot about human psychology. They've been studying how we work and how we function. And so they've been playing on that for a very long time. And of course, that's what they did in 2020. They just preyed on people's fear, and they preyed on people's decency to say, oh, well, you know, don't sneeze or don't go near Granny because you might kill her because of this invisible enemy. And unfortunately, so many people believed that. So that in itself was, you know, caused a lot of stress based, as I say, based on something that wasn't true. And again, that could have been part of why a number of people, or in many cases, or in some cases, people were manifesting symptoms because they were in that place of fear. So again, this sort of stress, the fear, the nocebo effect. And, you know, we know there's plenty of evidence that people can manifest all kinds of symptoms when they think they've taken a particular drug, like in clinical trials, and then they discover that they had the sugar pill, the inert substance. And so they manifested symptoms just through believing that they were taking a particular drug. So there's, as I say, plenty of evidence for that. So what we can do is, bottom line, take responsibility, start looking at what you're eating, what you're doing, how you're thinking, whether you're, you know, taking time out, and, you know, and we are social beings, so being with people, which again is why they're trying to keep us separate.
Yep.
And not, and the other thing I think is, you know, we're all being divided by these different ideas. And so to find ways to not allow ourselves to be divided and always angry all the time, you know, knowing that we're being lied to and being angry about it. So again, it's coming from a place of understanding what we're faced with and finding different ways of approaching it that doesn't make us scared, angry, and in heightened stress all the time.
Mm.
So
That's great. That's really good. And it's simple too, you know, like, and I love that. Like, none of the things that you listed cost any money, not a single dollar, not a single penny. You say, if I heard everything, more or less, your mentality, number one, how you think about things, which people of the channel, no surprise there, right? Law of mentalism is number one primary law of reality. Limiting our exposure to electromagnetic stuff, which makes a lot of sense. You know, these are things we don't know about, but I know not to put my head in the microwave, right? I'm aware. Not a good call. And then social things, right? Like we didn't get a hug for 2 years, 2 whole years. And that's something that I'm personally very passionate about myself. And especially right now, I'm on a bit of my own process about that. And then stress and fear, limiting those things from a psychological perspective, which I 100%, you know, that's what got me into, you know, the negative mentality during that whole pandemic time, because I, honest to God, I thought we were done. I was like, this is it. I'm going to have to scan my eye to get into Kroger to buy food or whatever. I literally thought that. And the reason why I thought that was, number one, nobody really knew what was going on. So everyone had a different version of that, all the flood of information. But also I was watching a ton of fear porn TV stuff, like YouTube stuff. And I love all the people, all those different creators, but I almost clicked on like a Russell Brand video. I was telling Brandon this the other day. I almost clicked on a Russell Brand video the other day, which would have just opened it up, you know. But I was like, nope, not gonna do it. Nope, not gonna do it. And I love Russell Brand, super funny guy, he's charming, his content's good. You know, there's a lot of great creators out there that talk about what's going on in the world right now. But I've found that if I just ignore all of it, you know, and these times come where things seem more intense right now. It's like, oh, but this is important. Oh, if you don't pay attention, I'm even having an argument on Instagram right now with a girl about paying attention to politics, whatever's going on in the, Venezuela or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't even pay attention. It's not that I don't have compassion for people. It's not that I don't care about their well-being, but honestly, what is me sitting around my house? It was like, there's like a Emerson quote where he's like, your love for people afar is contempt at home, because you won't do anything where you actually are. You're going to feel bad for people that you can't do anything for. And what is that going to do? It's just going to put you in a terrible state of mind, and then make you, get into the negative fear mode. And then here you are, clicking on a Russell Brand video. So I'm not trying to say you shouldn't watch, everybody's different. And some people can handle a lot more of abuse than I can. Okay. I'm sensitive. All right. I'm sensitive. So that's just me. And I know myself well enough that if I, watch one, I'll watch another one. And then, I'll be like in that vibe. And that's not where I want to be. I want to listen to the Bhagavad Gita instead, or, take a walk. Because the thing about it that's true for me, at least, is I look out the window. When people are talking about the sky is falling, I look out the window and the clouds are beautiful and it's a gorgeous sunset. One in a infinity sunsets, the sky will never look like what it does right now ever again. At least it's not in my lifetime, and I don't think ever. Somehow mathematically, and it won't. So that's a miracle. So I could just look outside and see an absolute miracle, or I could just, kind of succumb to the fear porn. Now, I just went on a huge fear porn tirade, but I was just really trying to wrap up your points of mentality, electromagnetic stuff and wires, social, being more social, which I'm very passionate about. I could go on a tirade about that, as well as fear. So those 4 bullet points, I think, are really simple and amazing, and I really appreciate you sharing those with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Being drawn into arguments about what's going on somewhere else in the world. And again, if you're starting to look at what reality actually is, it takes a completely different complexion when you're looking at or contemplating what might be going on somewhere else. Because again, if we're creating our own, we are creating our own experiences. So what does that experience, that isn't in your experience? And of course it's, again, the conditioning is like, oh, you being selfish if you consider yourself. Well, you can't actually consider anything else unless you do consider yourself. So it's not either or, if you're looking after other people, you have to look after yourself as well, because if you're not looking after yourself, you're not then in a position to be able to function to look after other people. So it's to do both, and it's getting that balance. And some people think, oh, well, you're just selfish. Well, yeah, I can only take responsibility for myself. I can't take responsibility for anybody else's actions. So you take responsibility for yourself, and then you realize just how powerful that is, because what we do ripples out into the rest of reality, how this works. So that's where we, is taking responsibility. And what that actually means, and it is that looking, doing the inner work and realizing the power we have to affect other people. And so how we interact with other people, what we do, our behaviors. So it's not just about our beliefs, it's then what we do in terms of our behaviors and the actions that we take based on those beliefs. And there was not quite a study, but a document that was created by the Institute of Noetic Sciences about, it's called spontaneous remission. And without going into detail, it's about how people whose conditions changed dramatically or they either were in complete or mostly remission. They were in remission from whatever it was, and it's not only just that, the obvious one, all sorts of conditions. There would definitely certain characteristics of these people, how they manage to get through this without the standard so-called treatment. And most of the time it's because they took responsibility, they took they stopped being dependent on others, they took back their autonomy, they started changing how they viewed things, they stopped living in fear, and they also took actions. It's how they then approach their life. So it's changing the not just the thoughts, it's the actions we take as well, and how we then interact with people. So if we're still engaging in arguments, and then we may want to have a look at why we think we need to actually still be getting involved in these arguments. So it's this being divided, by all these different concepts, and finding ways to have a conversation with people without making it a place of debate or discussion. Well, it's not even discussion, but to make it an argument. So we can have different views and still have conversations where we may discuss whatever and just say, okay, because it's always this, right or wrong, good or bad. There's always this polarity, or I've got to be right, or you have to be wrong to make me right, because I don't want to be wrong. It's just this idea that you're not wrong. So we've got different views on certain subjects. So let's have a discussion and see if we can both learn something and maybe come to slightly different views. So again, it's that attitude, and so many things that are going on, certainly with the whole political system of, like here as well as there, there was a time when we had 3 parties, but it's gone back to being, it's really 2. So it's just the the right and left, and they're called wings because they're attached to the same bird, as we know. So it's it's just, why are we arguing? Let's actually start working on how we can come together, recognizing we're different and our differences, and what we can do with it, and how we can go forward. And again, with the solutions, because that's the whole point. While we're still fighting, we're not creating solutions because we're busy in the weeds of these ideologies. And are they helping us? Are they helping us actually make progress and find solutions? Because I think that's what this is all about. It's making us realise that, well, hang on a minute, we've been sleepwalking a little bit and allowing ourselves to be controlled. So it's time to say, okay, no, I don't want to do this. So we have to take responsibility. So, okay, well, and what can we do? Well, we look at things, some things need to take time before they get developed, and then some changes we can make quite quickly. So it's just looking at solutions and how we can work together as it's cooperation. So it's not, it's how we can cooperate and work to our own strengths. So we find our own strength and say, well, this is what I'm good at, so this is what I can contribute, rather than, oh, well, you've all got to do the same thing. Or somebody who is not very practical, as I'm not very practical, it's like, don't make me go and build things. It's not where my talent, it's not where my I say talent, it's not where my abilities lie. I can do this, let me do this. And you always get the best out of people when you encourage them to work to their strengths, and then the whole team works well. So that's where the solutions come, is not to get involved. So not clicking on that Russell Brand, whether you find what he says interesting, and sometimes we can get drawn into these, oh, well, it's just really interesting. At the same time, well, we just, is that serving me now, or is there something else? And it's not about good or bad, it's just choices, just really the choices we make, and is that moving us forward?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, imagine arguing over which problem is worse when we could have been working on a solution the whole time. Like, I do a lot of like comedy where the room just hates me because I'm like a land-based capitalism and socialism, and people don't know how to take it because they think you have to like one or the other. You know what I mean? And it's like, of course, it's not even close. Communism killed way more, but but still, like, it's worse, right? But they're still bad, both. Like, that's one thing that I loved about. I'm such a big fan of Robert Anton Wilson, and he would talk about these types of things, and from a place where it's like you don't have to do one or the other. Like we're just get looped into this idea, and there's flaws, there's problems with everything. Even the most efficient system is going to have some things that can be improved, but it's so easy for us to get into this almost like either or kind of duality sort of argument consciousness, and it's like we're just wasting our time. Like let's talk about an actual solution. What can we do in order to move things forward, even if it's just a little bit? And then from there, I think many things open up, other solutions start to reveal themselves as a because of the catalyst of taking the initiative to go down that path instead. I have one more question for you. What about like vitamins and supplements and stuff? Do we need those? Is that something that like I need to go to GNC and spend, $700 on powders and supplements and proteins and all these types of things? Or is my body just like, hey, dude, I got you. You don't need, a bunch of magnesium or zinc or whatever. Or are there some supplements that we are actually lacking that we're not getting out of the soil like we used to? Because I do understand that is an issue as well.
Yes, I was going to say yes. The soil is depleted, or in some places the soil is depleted. There are people who are working on things like regenerative agriculture, so they are regenerating the soil, because that's where it starts. That's where the if you're growing plants, that's where the nutrients start, so that we then eat the food that grows, so they've got the nutrients. So yes, I am not a proponent of supplements per se, mainly because the vast majority of the supplement companies are owned ultimately by big pharma, and we then have to question what is in them, and they may not be as easily they may not be bioavailable. So even if you're taking whatever it is your body actually absorbing it and utilizing it? So we have this argument of like vitamin C, or there isn't much vitamin C in an orange, so if you take this, there's much more in it. Well, looking at a single vitamin like vitamin C in an orange, an orange contains far more than just vitamin C, and it contains what are called the cofactors that assists your body to actually absorb the vitamin C, and it's got all sorts of other things. And again, the whole isolation of vitamins is another big topic. There's a huge question mark over what these vitamins are. So that's one thing. Minerals are different. Our body does utilize minerals, and I don't know. I mean, it's probably late to start getting into this, because it's quite a big topic. But there's what are called tissue salts, which are minerals in a very, very fine form that are that the body does absorb, because they are what the body utilizes to create itself, because the body is regenerating all the time. Our and again, cells, the question mark over what cells are, but I won't go down that either. So the tissues, so our body is regenerating tissues, organs are regenerating. Sometimes, it takes years, sometimes months, different parts. So our body is changing all the time. It's a question if you're providing it with everything it needs, then it's going to be regenerating itself healthily. So the new parts will be as healthy. It's just that when the inputs, if you like, are not as nutrition. Oh, it's not just nutrition, but it's if they haven't quite got everything, then the new regenerated organs may not be functioning as well. So again, this is where the idea of aging comes in. It's just if the body's getting everything it needs, and again, it's also the mental aspect as well. So there are things you can do. I just hesitant to say, we need supplements per se. It's again depending on your diet. So, for example, if some, and I'm sure this won't apply to your audience, but if people are eating, just pure junk food and thinking, well, I just take vitamins because that'll, add what I'm not eating. I mean, that just is totally the wrong approach. First of all, the body is just, that isn't how the body is going to work. It's not going to improve. But again, also because of the and again, I'm not saying all supplements are owned by big pharma. I'm not saying that at all. We just, again, have to be really discerning, have to be careful where we're sourcing whatever it is that we're eating. Now, some people may have requirements for something, you know, they may be a bit low on certain things, so they may require something to just help them through a phase, but not to rely on them, I think.
Okay. Oh, that's great. That's an excellent, excellent answer. I love that. And it makes me feel, and again, you know, like it's saving me money. And because like, I really think that's what a lot of this stuff is. It's just ways to just convince people that they need something that they don't need, you know, and like, it's a great way to just steal people's money and make them concerned about their health, even preemptively before. It's like, because I'll do that. I'll be like, oh, I need that, you know, like, oh, are you a man in your, you know, early 40s? You know, it's like, what you're oh, I am. Oh, yes, I am. You know, and like the marketing is incredible. Like we were saying earlier with psychology, like certain people understand human psychology so well, and most people aren't even aware that those people are out there trying to convince them that they need something that they don't. You know, again, back to the whole like create the problem and then solve it sort of thing. Then you double your money. But but I really appreciate it. All your insight and all the work that you've done, and I can only imagine what you've been through and overcome. And I just want to say thank you for sharing and for being here and for doing the work that you've done. It's amazing, truly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really do. That means a lot.
Well, good. I'm glad. And I know our audience is going to appreciate it as well. They're going to love it. Guys, one more time, I'm going to put the link for everything in the show notes here, but I showed the book here on the screen. I'm going to share it one more time and quote the name of it here as well as we kind of wrap this interview up. It's called What Really Makes You Ill: Why Everything You Thought You Knew About Disease Is Wrong, by Dawn Lester and David Parker. We were kind of amazingly enough able to get Dawn on the podcast. I'm really excited. It's quite a thorough book, almost as long as Transurfing, if you guys are familiar with that one. So, yeah, so it should be a good read and a lot to learn. Yeah, that's a good. I love it.
Oops, no, sorry, yes, wrong way around.
Yeah.
Yes. It's because it's fairly comprehensive, as I say. It covers, you know, the background, the history, and puts the thing together. It's not just about the you know, the germ theories. There's quite a lot. There's quite a lot in it. So yeah.
I'm sure. And again, you know, thank you so much. And everybody, be sure to go check it out. Go check it out on Amazon. I'll put all of Dawn's links in the notes, and we will absolutely promote and support any way we can. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody go check the book out. And
my Substack, yes, please.
yes, the Substack, I'll put that in the links as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Yeah, I actually read a couple of your articles this morning. All right, everybody, we will be out of here and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks so much for hanging out on the podcast. Much love, many blessings.